Right now, we're going to take a look at another aspect of LayerFx, and that's found down here in the LayerFx list at the very top of the list called Blending Options. And we get this dialog box. Now, there are several things in the dialog box that will seem familiar to us. We notice that the blending options are under the styles at the very top. And we see in the middle that we have blend mode, opacity, fill opacity, among other things. And these are the same things that we see in our layers panel on the right. The part that we're going to be concerned about here is the blend if at the bottom. Now, blend if gray refers to a mixture of red, green, and blue, not the color gray. And if you click on this, you can see that it says red, and that refers to the red channel. The green and blue refer to the green and blue channels respectively. So let's go back to gray and let's see what this does for us. I'm going to just move this off to the side so I can see more of my gradation here, of my gradient. My gradient goes from black to white, and it's in a layer above the image of the flower here. Now, if I take the left slider and move it toward the right, what it says right now, anything that is lighter than the number that shows up here, and in this case it's 28, anything lighter than 28 on this layer will show through. Anything darker than 28 will become transparent, and you can see that as I move this lighter, the darker areas start disappearing. I go to the right hand side and I come down, and this does the same thing for the lighter areas. Right now it's at 200, and anything lighter than 200 becomes transparent. Now, you may notice that there's kind of a ragged edge here. Well, it turns out that if you hold down your Option or Alt key and click on this triangle, you can break it apart and actually make a nice gradation so that you would ease into into the transparency. And you can see you can do the same on the top and on the bottom. Now, the underlying layer, well, let's take a look at that. Let's move these back to their endpoints, their starting positions. So now what this says is that the underlying layer, anything brighter or anything darker, in this case, than 55, will show through. And on the other end, it says anything brighter than, let's say, 175 will show through. And you can break apart these triangles also, same as we did before, so that you can make a nice smooth gradation. Okay, how in the world would you use something like this? Well, let me show you. Let's cancel out of here. Let's take this layer and move it down below. So what I've got here is my picture of a flower, and I've got a logo. So here's my logo. It's basically white and gray on black. If I go down to my effects and go into blending options, what I can do here is if I take this layer, meaning the top bar, and I move the triangle to the right, my left triangle to the right, you can see that the black immediately disappears. And I can split my triangle here and get a smoother gradation, so that now that black background on the logo has disappeared and the lighter parts of the logo come through. I can go to the other end and bring down the white slider, and you can see now that the whites are disappearing, and that the farther I bring it, and let's split it apart here, the farther I bring it, the colors begin to come through. So now I have a black logo with the colors coming through. Okay, let's cancel out of this, and let's take a look at something else. What happens if this logo is below? So now Here's my flower, and the logo is on the layer below it. So I go to my top layer, I click on the effects, I go to blending options, and now if I move the sliders on this layer, you can see that it just does kind of a mishmash type of thing. It doesn't do anything that's pretty at all. However, if I go to the underlying layer, which is the bottom line, and I move the left triangle off to the right, all of a sudden the black from underneath shows through. And then as I split the triangle here and make the gradation smoother, you can see that the logo comes through with an image on black. Now if I go to the other end and I start bringing this through, then you can see that the logo comes through like this, and the farther I go, the gray part of the logo comes through. And now I would split the triangle and make my gradation a little bit smaller, so that you can see how you can actually blend two layers together using this function. It's a pretty powerful function, and it has its uses. It can't always be used, but when it can be used, it works very nicely. Now there's one other thing I want to show you on this, and that is, what if I have a white background with black lettering on it? So I can come up, I'll go to my blending options, I'll use this layer, and if I remove the white, it comes down and I can see that I have black type over the image. I can come in this way and I can get the image shining through onto the white. So these are things that you can use in order to make some very creative results.